Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Ledich. I'm here with Wire TV, and today we have a very special interview going on. We are with a man who was inducted into the Hall of Fame of the All Sports Museum of Southern New Jersey in 2023 recipient of the Dick Vermeil Lifetime Achievement Award given by the Eagles alumni, and received the Jack Newfield Courage in Journalism Award from the New York Daily News in 2017. He's been with ESPN since 1995. Ladies and gentlemen, Sal Paolantonio, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Great, yeah. Obviously, back at this school where you used to go, how does it feel to be back in Oneonta?
The campus looks great. Yeah, really impressed. Fantastic. Love
Better
all the
than
new
when you were here? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's beautiful. Looks good. Students look fantastic. My interactions so far with students at State Times and WONY have been over the top fantastic. Just really have enjoyed the conversations and the dedication that I see from the student body.
Yeah, does being back here bring up any fond memories of this place? Or?
Oh, definitely. Started my day at Phippy. Well, you know it as Hobart Hall. We used to call it Phippy back in the day, where I was an RA, and we had a little meeting in the dining hall where I used to work, doing breakfasts on Saturdays and Sunday mornings, so I conjured up a lot of memories. And then just seeing the WONY studios, the new WONY studios. I had a radio show there my entire time here, so that was cool. And, I really loved seeing the staff and how they really were, a together group. They really enjoyed being with one another and really enjoyed the development of the station. And I was very impressed with the State Times editorial staff. There's a really dedicated group of young journalists.
Yeah, so I know you didn't graduate here with a degree in journalism, but what did you do here? I know you mentioned the radio station that kind of helped hone your skills with journalism.
Well, being on WONY was everything, and I started my first couple weeks here. That really taught me to develop my voice, trust my vision for what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it. The communications business is all about developing a delivery. And being on WONY really taught me from the very beginning how to pay attention to what I was doing right and how I can improve what I was doing wrong, getting that feedback from students and from faculty and advisors. So that was important. And then I wrote a column in the State Times, and it taught me to focus on local journalism and reporting at the local level, which is a translatable skill that I've been able to use in my newspaper and television career.
Yeah, and you worked pretty, locally for a while. You were with the Philadelphia Inquirer, and you also had your own radio show. And so one thing I read was that you kind of talked about how big a risk it was at first to accept the deal with ESPN because it was a one-year deal. And I'm interested, to leave your protected job at the Philadelphia Inquirer. What was kind of the deciding factor in taking that risk?
Well, I wanted to do something different. The time was right. I had 3 little children, and I knew eventually they were all going to go to college, and someone is going to have to pay for that. So I thought it was important for me to try to take a big swing and develop my career in an exponentially advanced way, and ESPN was that. I mean, when Harvard comes calling, you say yes. So, and that was the top of the business, and still is. So that's what really motivated me was to advance my career and to do something completely different. If you do what you always did, you get what you always got. And so I wanted to try something different.
All right, yeah. And another thing, something that you always say is that if your mother says she loves you, check it out, which means always check your sources. But I'm interested with the way that kind of journalism is now, and it's more fast-paced, and especially sports and social media. Does it make it harder to make sure that your information is fully accurate, or is there more pressure to get info out faster and not check your sources?
Mike, I'm glad that you asked me that question because that has never been more important because of the fast-paced. So it's always more important to be right than to be first.
All right, yeah. And then, before sports, you used to actually do a bit more of a political-based journalism. You even won the Associated Press Managing Editors Award for Enterprise Reporting in 1985 with your coverage of the famine in East Africa. What was the thing that caused that switch from the more political stuff into sports journalism?
Well, there was an opening for the Eagles beat the guy who was covering the Eagles was given an assignment in Africa, actually. And the editors saw me and saw that I was available. There was a lull in my reporting. The 1992 presidential campaign had just ended. I had just finished writing a book. And I was looking for my next assignment. And I was in the right place at the right time. And the Eagles is a big, big beat in Philadelphia. You know, it's city politics and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I managed to get lucky in covering both in my time at the paper, my 10 years there. So they asked me if I wanted to do it. It wasn't really a question. It was like, you're going to do it. And I had never covered sports before. I'd written some sports columns here at the State Times. But it goes back to what did I learn here in Oneonta that gave me a foundation that I could draw from later in life. So my entire professional journalism career, I had not done anything in sports. But because I had a foundation here in writing about sports at SUCO, I could draw on that, and it was important, really, really important.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that this school could really help with that and that transition. And so obviously you are one of the best sports journalists out there. So for creating a story, what makes a great sports story beyond just the game?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. So I've covered a lot of different stories outside of the game. The Plexico Burress trial, the Marv Albert trial, the Ray Lewis murder trial. And I guess it's because of my news background that ESPN trusted me to cover these news stories off of the actual game action. But I think the number one thing that you have to keep in mind is whatever the audience is interested in is, to me, the most important story. So I don't really try to focus what I'm reporting on based on what I think is the right story, but I think it's important for the audience to be engaged. So, if I'm covering a game, I want to make sure that the audience understands the full ramifications of what's happening with both teams. So I will pick something that, to me, is going to be interesting to the audience. And if it's not, they'll let me know. And if it is, I'll do it again.
All right, yeah. And so another question, obviously you've been with ESPN since 1995. What's your favorite moment during your time with ESPN? When I was, doing my research for this, I got to see the Bart Scott "Can't Wait" quote that he spoke to you. Is it that? Is it another moment?
I would have to say it was the Super Bowl right after 9/11 in New Orleans. I'm from Long Island, and a lot of my close friends worked at Cantor Fitzgerald, kids that I grew up with and played sports with, died on 9/11 in the South Tower. So that Super Bowl was a real emotional pivot point for me, and it made me really understand how sports can bring people together. And the Patriots won that Super Bowl, as you remember, in dramatic fashion. Adam Vinatieri's 51-yard field goal with 5 seconds left beat the St. Louis Rams, and Robert Kraft stood up on the podium with a Lombardi trophy and said, "We're all Patriots." And that was a very emotional moment for a lot of people who were in the Superdome that day, especially for me, because of the way it impacted me and my family and my friends.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you so much. Thank you all. That's the interview. I've been Michael Ledich. This is Sal Paolantonio, and thank you so much for watching Wire TV.